Okay, I am here in chapter 2, review number 1, Google form. We have here a note about GCF word problems. So if we're given a word problem, how do we know that it's a greatest common factor problem? Well, here's a couple questions to ask yourself when given a problem. Are you splitting things into smaller sections? Are you trying to arrange something into rows or groups? Are you splitting something or dividing something equally? If you are, that would be a greatest common factor word problem. So, for example, here's the situation about a basketball team. Tryouts are being held. There's 14 coaches and 35 players who must be split into teams so that there is the same amount of coaches and players in each team. What is the greatest number of teams that can be formed? There's a couple key words here. One is split. You want the same amount of coaches and players on the same team, so you are dividing equally or splitting equally. And so this is a hint that this is a GCF word problem. Next is LCM. How do we know that the word problem suggests that we should do LCM, least common multiple? Here's a couple questions to ask yourself as far as that goes. Do you have an event that repeats over and over? Or are you trying to figure out when something will happen again at the same time? If so, this is an LCM word problem. If something is repeating or if something is happening at the same time. So, for example, you have these two lights that are turned on at the same time. One light blinks every 5 seconds, and the other light blinks every 9 seconds. And the question is, how often do the lights blink at the same time? And so, as you can tell here, we have something that repeats over and over again, right? One light blinks every 5 seconds. Keyword here is every, right? Every 5 seconds at 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on, that light is blinking. The other light blinks every 9 seconds. So at 9, 18, 27, 36, and so on, that light is blinking. And we want to know, when will the lights blink at the same time? And so this is a hint that this is an LCM word problem. Next note here is actually an example of an LCM word problem where you have two people. Ben, he exercises every 12 days. Keyword is every. That means this is an event that repeats. He's doing it over and over again. So is Isabella. She exercises every 8 days. Okay, so we have events that are repeating. This is going to be an LCM word problem. Okay, and that's basically what this is saying down here. This LCM, because they are repeating the event to find out when they will exercise together. Okay, the first three on here, you're just finding GCF and LCM like you did last week. Just please be sure to pay attention whether it asks you for GCF, the greatest common factor, or whether it asks you for LCM. You can use the ladder method for both of these. Just remember, in GCF, you go straight down, okay, and you multiply the factors that you pulled out. Whereas in LCM, like we talked about last week, you're going down and to the right? You're making your L, your box, and you're multiplying all of those numbers together to find the LCM. Okay, I'm going to do number 4 and 5 with you. They're actually kind of the same problem. Number 4 says Mrs. Evans has 90 crayons and 15 pieces of paper to give to her students. What is the largest number of students she can have in her class so that each student gets an equal number of crayons and an equal number of paper? And so the question is this a GCF problem or is this an LCM problem? Well, are you splitting things into equal groups or is something repeating over and over again? It looks to me like we're splitting things up, right? We have these materials, we have 90 crayons and we have 15 pieces of paper, and we want to split that up equally or divide that equally among the students. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to use, it's going to be a GCF word problem. That's going to be our answer to number 4 because we're splitting things up. And in number 5, we're actually going to answer number 4. Okay, so we want the GCF of these two numbers, 15 and 90. So I'm going to write them side by side like we do for the ladder method, 15 and 90. And I'll draw an L for ladder. Okay, now let's identify what 15 is. 15 what? 15 pieces of paper. Okay, so I'm going to put a P above 15 because 15 is for the pieces of paper. And 90 is for the crayons. I'm just going to put a letter C for crayons. So we got 15 pieces of paper, 90 crayons. Okay, so like we do, what's a common factor between 15 and 90? Well, 5 would be right because they end in 5 or 0. 5 times 3 would be 15. 5 times what is 90? If you don't know, you could always do the inverse of multiplication, which would be division. So 90 divided by 5, that would give you 18. What is a common factor between 3 and 18? That would be 3, right? So make an additional ladder. Pull out the common factor of 3. I know 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 6 is 18. 1 and 6 don't have a common factor other than 1, so you're done making ladders. And because you want the GCF, remember the GCF, you go straight down and you multiply these numbers together. So 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, and so what this is telling me is that the question back in number 4 was, what is the largest number of students? Well, the largest number of students that she can have and split those equally is 15. So 15 would be your answer for number 5. Now, the next question would be, if it's not actually not on here, but if I were to ask you, how many pieces of paper would each of those 15 students get? Well, look right here. Remember, here was our pieces of paper column right here. And in this column, what's the last number that you see? 1, right? And that makes sense, right? If there's 15 students and I have 15 pieces of paper, how many pieces of paper will each student get? 1, right? 15 students will get 1 piece of paper, and so that will take care of all the 15 pieces of paper. They're all handed out now. And what about crayons? How many crayons will each student get? Well, look at this crayon column. Okay, and what's the last number in this column? That would be 6, right? And so this number right here tells you how many crayons each of the 15 students would get. Because if 15 students get 6 crayons each, how many total crayons would that be? Well, 15 times 6, that's 90, right? And so as you can see, all my crayons are handed out, all of my pieces of paper are handed out, and they're handed out to the 15 students in the class. Okay, you try number 6 and 7. Number 6 is asking you, is it a GCF or an LCM word problem? And number 7 asks you, from the problem number 6, so from this situation, how many trees can I plant per row? Be sure to enter your answer as only a number into that text box. Number 8, CILFM radio gave away a $100 bill for every 12th caller, and every 9th caller received concert tickets. The question is, how many callers must get through before one of them receives both a $100 bill and a concert ticket? So is this a GCF problem or an LCM problem? Are we splitting things up into equal groups or dividing things equally? Or is something repeating over and over again happening? Are we trying to figure out when something will happen at the same time? This one, right? We're trying to figure out when something will happen at the same time, namely, when will the caller get both of these rewards, the $100 bill and the concert ticket? And so we want the LCM of 12, because every 12th caller gets a reward, and 9, because every 9th caller gets a reward. So I'm going to write those numbers side by side, 9 and 12, draw an L for ladder, because I'm going to use the ladder method. What's a common factor between 9 and 12? Well, 3 would be, right? Because 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 4 is 12. 3 and 4 don't have a common factor other than 1, so I'm done making ladders. If I wanted the GCF, which I don't in this problem, but if I did, it would be 3, right? I want the LCM in this problem, so I'm going to go down and to the right, make my box, my L box, and I'm going to multiply these numbers together. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 4, that is 36. That's my LCM. And so basically what this is telling me is, here in number 9, it says, what is the answer to number 8? Which caller will it be? Enter your answer is only a number. So the 36th caller, so caller number 36, will actually get both rewards. They will get the $100 bill and the concert ticket. Okay, you try number 10. It's asking you, is this a GCF or an LCM problem? Be sure you click submit when you are done. And if you miss any, I would like for you to go back and fix the ones that you missed.